G'day guys, James and Ant here, Laver and
Hi
Wood.
there.
So we're just going to do a quick video about back care. Jim, oiling.
Oiling, yeah. Well, oiling's quite a big part of knocking in the bat to start with. We certainly don't oil the bat like you used to. Traditional terms, the bats would be saturated in oil and stood in oil and all that sort of thing, but that actually doesn't do the bat much good.
What's the disadvantage of that?
They're basically the bat, all that oil that you put in, that just sucks on weight.
Yep.
So you might have a bat that's say 2 pounds 10 ounces, and then suddenly it just over time that you put all this oil into it, it's suddenly 212, 214, and because basically all that oil that you've put into the bat has just stayed in the bat. And so it's just added weight and added weight and added weight.
Sometimes those old bats we get back from customers that have just been, just lathered up with oil.
Yes.
They're just dead. And
they are,
heavy.
yeah. And effectively what, in my understanding, what happens is that you have, your cells are all nice and open. And if you've got them nice and open with an airspace inside, they'll bounce. They'll bounce nicely and the ball will bounce nicely away from the face. But if you put too much oil in, that moisture, the moisture from the oil starts to go into that cell hole and fill up that void, which effectively it starts to put solids in there, and so then you don't get so much air in there. It doesn't bounce as much.
So it just closes.
It effectively just fills it up and clogs it all up.
Yeah.
And so you just don't get that nice springy feel in the bat that you really want, and so effectively, over-oiling a bat just doesn't do it any good. Also, it starts to fill up the fibres, and then they sort of start to once the bat starts cracking, if there's too much oil in there, it just cracks a lot more. So it's not
Actually,
ideal.
just does a lot of harm to the bat.
Yeah, and then you can't actually repair it because you can't you can't glue together pieces of a bat that's been oiled, so it's because the oil stops the glue working.
It's not porous anymore.
No, it's not, and it just needs to be dry, so it's for the glue to work.
So let's run an example.
Okay.
How would you advise?
So from oiling, so we've got effectively you put about probably half a teaspoonful on the face.
And what is the oil?
It's raw linseed oil.
Yep.
So raw linseed oil. So we've got about half a teaspoonful on the face. So you're looking at about that much, if you can see that. And so then you literally rub that over the surface, and that's important to do that with your fingers.
Why is that?
Purely because with a cloth, some people use a cloth, but you really don't know how much you've actually put into the face because the cloth soaks it all up.
I see.
And so here you can see that all that oil I've put on there is going into the face. It's actually soaking in nicely, and so that's really important. You don't want to put it on a cloth. Also, a cloth, if you don't dispose of the cloth properly, you'll probably see warning notices on linseed oil that those cloths can spontaneously combust, which is not a good thing. So you really want
after
to,
how long?
Basically what happens is heat builds up in the oily cloth, and it starts to catch fire. Yeah, so it's one of those things. So I'm not sure the length of time. I haven't put it to test in the workshop because I don't like things like that. So but I read the warnings and heeded those. So.
It wouldn't be much fun if your linseed oil cloth caught fire in your gear bag and your lovely new signature went to the dogs.
Oh, that would be terrible, wouldn't it? But yeah, effectively, things like that. Yeah, the main reason for us is you can control how much. I mean, yes, you do get a bit of oil on your fingers, but that washes off with soap and water.
And once you've got it to this stage?
Once you've got it to this stage, leave it overnight, let that soak in, and then get perhaps a piece of tissue, because that's all sort of dried off, piece of tissue paper, and then wipe that off. You'll only get sort of solids on the bit of tissue paper at that stage, so you're not going to get much in it, so it's never going to spontaneously combust.
After it dries, then...
Yeah, give it a wipe, and then put another really light coat on. Just maybe not even quite as much as I just did, just to sort of let that settle. Leave that again overnight, and then you're ready for the knocking in process. So it's it just takes a little bit of time to get that right, but you don't want to put in any more than that. That's about right, and then you're away.
Wonderful. That's
the oiling process.
James Laver on oiling bats.